Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another tips video. It's been a minute since I've done a tips video, and this one's about some of the ones I've actually used over the last 7 months since I made my first tips video, as well as a couple that you guys on Facebook on our private group shared with us. By the way, if you want to join our Facebook group, go down below. Link is in the description. Now, these are just a small little cluster of ones that that kind of stood out to me over the last little bit. But please feel free to drop your favorite tip down below, and it just might make it into our next tips video. I keep track of all of them. All right, let's get into it. When you come out to your car after it's been asleep all night and you want to unplug your charging cord from your car and just get in, but you get out there and it won't open. Obviously, it doesn't come out because it's locked. So you pull out your phone app and you go to open it, but it says waking up, and sometimes that can take a little while. See? Still going, still going. So here's what I do to speed this process up. All I do is I come in here, I press that. By pressing the back door, it opens this thing, it wakes the car up right away. I can then come in my app, I slide over to go to what I use is the Stats app. I press unlock right there, and unlocks the lock on the charging port. I can remove it, and then it's good to go. This is the same if you come out to your car and it's all locked and you want to actually plug in the charging port, but you can't, you press it and nothing's happening because the car is locked. This doesn't happen all the time, so a lot of you are like, what are you talking about? But if, again, same thing, if you open this first, okay, it kind of wakes the car up, gets it ready, then you can press, and it opens up. I'm not sure if it's just my car that does that sometimes, but oftentimes when I have my phone in my pocket, I still can't just walk up to my charging port, press the flap to have it open. I still have to actually unlock the car first, so rather than getting out the phone, unlocking everything, just open the back door, and then you can see it opens right up. All right, now this next tip comes from one of our Facebook members, Alan. And Alan, he said that if you have you have to have a performance model for this one, and that is that you're able to control your acceleration modes. You can have sport mode and comfort mode. And so if you find that when you're in like stop and go traffic or intersections where your car is on autopilot following another car and it's kind of like having to stop and go a lot, and you find it too jerky and you don't like how it's aggressively stopping, aggressively accelerating, you can actually switch your driving mode down to comfort mode, and he says it really smooths it out and is really nice. Now, it's not necessarily a mode you want to just drive on normally because it's gonna not be all that sporty and fun, but in terms of like that situation I just explained, according to Ellen, this really solves that problem. So if you have a performance model, this is a very useful tip. Thanks, Ellen. So now with this next one, let's say that you're gone away from your car and you're like, I want a little fresh air in there, but I don't want to actually turn the battery on or the climate control on. What you can do is just come right into your phone app here. You go down here to controls, and then the very top here, when you press vent, see how all these windows are now rolled down? It takes them down about 2 inches to let that breeze get through. They're kind of vented out a bit. And then same thing when you want them closed. Just take the app, tap close this time, and the windows go up. Now, I will warn you, when you start working with some of these, you might find that some of them don't actually work. The first time I tried this little tip, only 3 of my windows went down. So I had to take it to Tesla. They did a reset on the car, and then all 4 of them started working again. I did hear that you can actually roll all the windows down, all of them back up again to calibrate them, but I talked a little bit more of that in another video. So this next tip comes as well from our Facebook group. And it was mentioned that you can get a third-party app like the Stats app, and you can use Siri shortcuts, which is really great. You can say, open my trunk, set my temperature to this, warm up my seats. There's really a lot of options through the Stats app, and there may be other apps as well. But let me tell you what I'm talking about, the Stats app. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, this is what it looks like. And so if you want to use the Siri shortcuts here, and by the way, if you don't have the Stats app, back when I bought it about 7 months ago or so, I think it was $20 to buy it one time. It might be on a subscription service right now. I'm not really sure. You have to look it up in your app store. But what you're going to do is you're going to go up here into the settings. Okay, then you're going to scroll down to where it says Siri shortcuts. And then you can see all through there are all the different places you can go in there and make a Siri shortcut for that. If you happen to have an Apple Watch like this, then it's pretty cool because you leave your phone and all that, in your briefcase or wherever, pocket, and you just come up like this and, just, hey Siri, and then you say your thing, open my trunk, whatever you're trying to do. Open the charge ports, a really good one. The thing is with this, though, is you need the car to be awake to work. Every time I tried it when the car was sleeping all night, coming down in the morning, it did not work. I had to do the other trick like you guys already saw, where you just pop the door handle and then you have more access to stuff. But it works most of the time. So if you're wondering how you use Siri with your Tesla, you can do it through the Stats app. Another great tip that we got from one of our people on our Facebook group is that if you are driving on autopilot and you're kind of getting annoyed at the autopilot nag, that one of the best ways to just ignore that, or to acknowledge that little indicator on your screen if you don't want to sit there with your hand on the wheel, which I don't recommend not doing that, but if you're one of the people that like to drive without having your hand on the wheel, all you have to do is on this left wheel over here, just simply adjust it. So you watch, you'll see adjusting by the way, it will also adjust the volume, so keep that in mind, but just watch. When it tells me, I'm going to keep my hand off the wheel here, when it tells me that I need to touch the wheel, I will just roll that one and you'll see what I'm talking about. So here we are. I'll just take my hand here, just click that one time, and there we go. I got another bit of time here now before I have to actually put my hand on the wheel, which again, just to be clear, I'm not in any way recommending you don't keep your hand on the wheel, which actually leads us to our next tip. So that next tip is where you actually keep your hand on the wheel to eliminate as much of that autopilot nag as possible, which again is just the autopilot telling you to touch the steering wheel. And so I have tried a lot of different things over the last 7-8 months, and I have found by far the best way to put your hand on the steering wheel is just one hand, and not down here, but up here a little bit, so that when your arm rests like this, it's putting a little bit of tension on the wheel, and I will literally go an entire drive without a single autopilot nag coming up here. The point is if you're just resting your hand down here, it's just pulling straight down, it's not trying to turn the wheel at all, it's not going to really work. But you put it a little bit higher, at least halfway up here, just kind of rest your hand like that, you can go for days and it's not going to give you the autopilot nag. The other way that's kind of comfortable, but it gives you the nag sometimes if you're not being careful, is if you have your hand up here and you just kind of rest like this. Again, you're putting pressure on the wheel, but not enough to turn off autopilot, and it's going to do a pretty good job keeping that nag away from it. Now on this next one, if you wash your car a lot, this is not something you really have to worry about, but there's a lot of people that don't wash their cars. But if you're gonna do one thing, come in here and clean all your cameras. Remember that this car has 8 cameras on it, and they all need to see to work properly. I mean, you see how tedious these things are when rain gets on them, or bright sunlight sometimes can mess with them. I personally never had that concern myself, but I've heard of other people. So just make sure that, once or twice a week you come out and you wipe off all the different cameras in your car. And if you don't know where they all are, here's where they are. You obviously have one of these on each side, which look back, and you now can see those in your backup cameras. Inside of here, this little black square up top here, you've got 1, 2, 3 up there as well. That makes 5. So obviously just washing the windshield is good. And the wipers down here, when they come across, they do go across this whole area. And so it normally keeps these clean if you go through 1 or 2 days of rain or so. But it's just another thing to be aware of is that you do have 3 more up there. And then of course you have the 2 cameras in the side of the car here between the 2 doors, which face this way. And then the last one, as you might have guessed, is the backup camera way down here, right where they're usually placed. So taking the time to just rub those real quick, make sure they're good. It's going to give you the best chance of having a great autopilot experience. And let's get on to the next one. So the next tip I want to show you guys that I didn't find out for almost a year of owning this car, well, let's just call it about 7 months, is that you can control the back vent, which seems pretty simple, pretty common, but I didn't know where to do it from. So like if your kids are in the back freezing and you're not, you can, because you gotta remember, you got all this glass staring at you a little bit more. Sometimes they get a little bit cold. You just come in here to your controls here, and this button right here, when it's pressed, means that it is, putting out the cold air. And when it's not pressed, that means that it is turned off for them. So pretty simple, it's right there. I hope that helps. Okay, so for this next tip here, just real quick, for those of you who may not know this, that is that the safest way to turn off autopilot is to not hit the brake. It's not to jerk the steering wheel, but it is to just simply take the gear stock like this and push it up. It cancels autopilot. It doesn't put your car at risk or you. It's the safest way to do it. Just make sure your feet are on the accelerator, or your foot, to take over driving and all of that. So now there's a lot of things you can do with your Tesla app that a lot of us don't really think about, or maybe we haven't known we could even do it. And this next one is another one of those things. So the one we're going to talk about is that you can actually start your car for somebody else without having to get them a car key or your phone or having them log in through your app. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. My parents were gone to California here a couple weeks back, and I need to get some stuff out of the rafters in their garage, but their Tesla, was sitting inside the garage there right below where I needed it to be. So I don't have any way of moving my parents' car. I can't get in the car without them. And so I texted my dad, said, hey, unlock the car for me. I got to move it. So he unlocks the car from California. Then he goes into the Tesla app, and right here you can just click on the little keys where it says start. So that gives me about 5 minutes or so to get in the car and get the car moving. And so I was able to back out of the driveway. And then I did my stuff. I texted him again, said unlock it, start it up. He just said unlock, start, pull it back in the garage. Then he locked it all up after that, and it was totally fine. So this is kind of nice if you want, your buddy needs to take your car out for a minute, you want to let someone drive it, or you're not home and someone else needs to move it, whatever the reason may be. It's just nice to know I don't have to actually physically give you a key in order for you to get in the car and drive it without me. So whatever that means for you, great. That was the experience that worked for me, which is pretty cool. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. Now on this next one, if you're the kind of person like me who uses these headrests, okay, and these are these awesome ones from Northwest Customs. They're down in the link below if you want to know more about them. But I always have them on for me, and I'm 6'1", and they fit just perfectly. So if I put them right here, they go right behind my neck. Well, the problem is when my wife gets in, she's 4'3". And look where her head ends up. It's somewhere down like this. And then she has her hair back here, she's pushing her head forward. They just simply do not work for someone of her height, at least not in the current setup. So what you can do with these, which is really cool, you just turn them around backwards, put them back there just like that, and then they're completely out of your way. It's more of a convenience tip. So now this next one is another tip from one of our Facebook members, and he was saying if you have an important document, for example, this beautiful picture that my daughter drew for me. Okay, it's actually me that drew it for the sake of this video, but we'll pretend it was my daughter. They suggested that you don't want to put this document somewhere you can't get access to it, like for example in the glove compartment, because that is activated by electricity, and if your battery dies you won't be able to get into your glove compartment. So instead put it down in your center console where you can get access to it pretty much whenever you want. Unless of course you're someone like me who keeps a bunch of random junk in here like camera gear, face masks, that sort of thing. But anyway, you can shove it all down in there. Boom, bring it on, dead battery. Which leads me to another tip. I'm not going to really show this one, but I highly recommend that you go and keep a jump box inside your car, like your trunk or somewhere you can access without actually having to pop the frunk. Remember, with the jump box, you can connect it to 2 wires at the front of your car, and you can force the frunk to pop open even if your battery is dead, and then you can obviously jump the battery from there. I have a whole nother video about this down in my series. You can look it up in the tutorials. Anyway, it's just a good little thing to always remember to bring something like that with you, because you are driving a battery, and that 12-volt battery does a lot for this car, way more than the actual huge battery the car is literally built on top of. So now this next part, let's say you're driving down the road and you're like, you know what, I want to go home. I don't want to type in my address, and maybe I don't want to use voice communications. There's another cool way you can do it. You can just grab your finger and slide down, and it'll take you to your house or to your work. If you're at home, when you pull down or pull sideways, it'll take you to the opposite direction. So now if you tap on this, you see up here you got home and work. You got to have those already plugged in and programmed, but if they are plugged in and programmed, then when you do the slide thing, they'll take you to whichever one you're not at now. Now if you're not at either of those, I think it takes you home. I think that's how that works. So for example, this is going to take me to work. But here's what's really cool about this, okay, is if you look down to the bottom, it'll tell you when you get to work what percentage of battery you're going to have there, which leads into our next thing that sometimes people don't know about. Let's say you're right here right now and you wanted to get an idea of what the percentage of battery is. Maybe you didn't look in the beginning. You could pull this down and it'll zoom out again, which is really cool about that navigation. And then if you look down here, it'll tell you that this is how much battery percentage you're going to have when you get to your destination. But here's what's cool. If you actually slide this up, it'll show you your round trip. It says round trip estimated to start point. So and it basically, when you get back home, you'll have 44%. Getting there is 52, get home at 44. So you get a really good idea of how your trip is going to look. So another neat tip that I find extremely useful, that you've heard me talk about multiple times, is that anything from the volume to the temperature, you put your finger on it, you can just move your finger down here and it'll adjust it for you. I tapped on the screen there. Same with the volume. Again, just slide your finger and you can do it anywhere. Once you press, as long as you don't let go, it'll continue to adjust it, which is really cool. When it comes to looking at your things like your settings, your music, all these different things that pop up here. Like, let's look at music, for example. If you put your finger on the tab here or on the button and you slide your finger up and down, you see you can control the different stacks. So here's the very bottom one. You could slide it up here a little bit further, slide it up here a little bit further to see the full thing, or you could just tap it to make it disappear, tap it to make it come back, and it'll go to the same thing you had it at previously. So let's say I grabbed it here, pulled it down to that, tap it, goes away, tap, comes back. It all comes back to the same setup, you know, just like with your backup camera. If you leave it like this so it's not showing all of your other two side cameras, and then you tap it away and you bring it back again, it's going to be the same setting. You pull it up, it'll be the same way as when you put it down. Pretty standard stuff, but I found that it's pretty awesome and pretty actual helpful. Also, a reminder for people that keep asking me this. So if you're in entertainment mode, so I put car and park in entertainment, and let's say that you are you know, watching Netflix. Okay, so you got Netflix up here. This works the same with YouTube or anything else. If you want to adjust your temperature, if you want to adjust other parts of your car, what you can do, because you can't do it while you're obviously watching Netflix without turning it off, is you can just go into your app, down to the Tesla app here, go into climate, and you can control a lot of it right there. You can also obviously tap the screen, and you got these adjustments up here as well. But the one thing you can adjust from here is your seats. So if you want to put your heated seats on or whatnot, you could do it through your controls on your app. Now this next one's kind of old news, but I keep getting asked about it, so I'm just going to throw it in this mix right here of these random tips I'm putting together. And it involves how to actually get your phone to message you and get text messages on your car and that sort of thing. And it's actually really easy to do. All you have to do is come in here, click on Bluetooth, where here it says sync messages. You tap sync messages. You can put the chime on when a new message comes in. And then from now on, that's it. Every time you get a text message, it'll pop up right here, and you're gonna get your text message. Now this next tip comes from our Facebook group again, from Marty. Most of you guys know Marty. And he said keep with you a bottle of ONR, I think that's what he said, ONR. Anyways, basically like no rinse wash, stuff you could spray on your car and wipe off, because what happens is there's just a big flat wall against the front of your car here, and so you want to, you know, you want to take time to go and actually, like, you know, spray it. And by the way, don't use this. This is just a prop, goof off. But get some proper stuff, because mine's in my trunk right now. I personally just keep a little bit of soapy water in there. Again, there's better things to use, but every time I stop somewhere, especially if it's been a long drive, you just spray it real quick, wipe it off, and that'll keep the bugs off, especially in the summertime. They just get crusted and baked on the front of your car, but it doesn't have to be that way. You could just spray it, wipe it off real quick, and you keep your car looking nice. Also, you're probably already familiar with this, but with one of our recent updates, it made it so your car won't lock when you walk away from it as long as it's in a specific destination, for example, in my garage. And it has been a total blessing. I highly recommend you guys switch that on if you haven't, because I'm constantly going out to my car to get something out of the trunk, or maybe I didn't plug in the charging port yet, and so I'm going out to do all these things. And if you don't have your phone on you, you can't do any of those things. But with this new update, you can do those things if you don't have your phone, because it doesn't lock the car while at home or at whatever the destination is. So I highly recommend you guys do that. Try it out. It works amazing. And again, that's just in one of your settings in the car. And for example, I don't have my phone on me right now. Obviously it opens. And here's where you do this. You just go into locks, go down here where it says walk away door locks, have that on, but then it say exclude home. Well, it's gonna know where your home is, and so that's how you fix that. So now there are obviously so many more little tips that people ask me about, and those are just some of the ones that I don't know, I guess stand out to me a lot, so I wanted to kind of share those with you guys. There's a lot better tips out there. Obviously, there's tons that I did not include in this video, but these are ones, again, the most common ones that people bring up to me, and you may think of that and go, why? I have no idea. So I wanted to share this with you guys because I know most people that watch this channel are new to Tesla, and so I love sharing with you guys these cool little tips and tricks that I like, as well as some of our Facebook group people, members like as well. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Maybe you picked up one or two new things, and I'll see you on the next one.